And welcome back into the North Star Takes podcast, your one-stop shop for Minnesota sports takes and content.
Yes, sir.
In this video segment, we will be breaking down the Minnesota Wild's potential playoff matchups, which there's only two different outcomes now. The Wild are locked into the 3 seed, so they're going to be playing. They're going to not have home ice. They're going to be starting off on the road, whether it's against Colorado or it's against Vegas. And as we're starting to record right now, Colorado is just facing off against the Los Angeles Kings. And if they win, they're the 1 seed. They win the division. We end up playing Vegas. If they lose, Vegas wins the division. We play Colorado. So how you feeling, and what do you think's going to end up happening tonight?
Yeah, it kind of sucks that the Wild home ice is out of play now. So that's another thing. But especially with crowds probably returning in larger and larger volumes throughout the playoffs. But looking at this game tonight, determining who we're going to play in this first round, I think the Avalanche will, with everything on the line to win the division, I think they'll take care of a Kings team with nothing to play for. So I think we're going to get Vegas the first round. I mean, you never know. Anything could happen in a 60-minute hockey game. So
Absolutely.
I'm thinking we'll get Vegas, but it could end up being Colorado too. You never know. But how do you feel?
Yeah, I think Colorado's going to end up winning tonight. I think they really want to win this division. I think they want to play St. Louis.
Yeah.
They've handled St. Louis pretty well this year, so they've also handled us pretty well. So I just think they want that 1 seed, though. They want home ice throughout, at least throughout the first couple rounds. So, and I think they'd actually get it throughout the whole thing because they have more points than anybody in that Canadian division. So
I think you're right. Yeah.
So that's another thing to be playing for as well. So it'll be interesting. I think, like we've talked about before, I think we match up better with Vegas overall. So I think that'd be a more entertaining series. The rivalry is kind of there now with how chippy the last couple games have been. So
Absolutely.
I think Colorado will take care of business tonight, and we'll be playing Vegas Sunday at 2:00, I think.
Yeah, it'll be Sunday at 2 on NBC.
Awesome. So that'll be something to look forward to for sure. So assuming we're going to be playing Vegas, what are you kind of expecting? Do you expect the Wild to maybe pull out in that series, or do you think Vegas will end up taking care of us? Do you think it'll go 7 games? Do you think it'll be super competitive, super close throughout?
I think it'll be, the last thing you said. I think it'll be super competitive and super close throughout. I think both of these teams are well-oiled machines, and they've showed it all season. I think both teams present a lot of different challenges. They have good goaltending from Cam Talbot, Marc-Andre Fleury. So I think that'll be definitely a storyline to watch. Could decide the series inevitably. But I think just looking at sheer skaters, I mean, both teams got star players that can put the puck in the net and do it very quickly. So I think this would be a really grinded out series. I could legitimately see that being a 7-game thriller. So
I could too.
I think I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, get your popcorn out. This is gonna be fun. So I just like this matchup a lot more with Vegas than I would with Colorado, just based off of like how we played each team this season. And just obviously it presents a more favorable light for the Wild when they play Vegas. So I don't know how you feeling. What do you think kind of series we're looking at if it's Vegas?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a tough one too. I mean, we haven't really seen a Wild playoff series that they win that hasn't been tight.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we're always gonna grind it out. We're gonna make you sit on the edge.
We're never gonna sweep somebody or anything. So which I wouldn't expect them to. Vegas and Colorado are both really good teams. So
they do it for the fans. They want entertainment.
I do think if we end up with Colorado, I could see a scenario where Colorado wins in 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, I do too, unfortunately.
Just due to our core players now aren't experienced in the playoffs. So, I mean, they had that little thing in the bubble last year, but that wasn't, that was only 3 games, and they were bounced out right away. So
exactly.
I think Colorado would kind of take it to us a little bit. Vegas, we have the confidence of playing against them. We've been good against them all year. So I think I could see the Wild winning that series, but it would be 6 or 7 games for sure. I don't see them winning in 5 or 4. No. And I don't really see Vegas winning in 5 or 4 either.
No, I feel like they couldn't clean up on the Wild that quick. But I think the biggest thing that concerns me in a matchup against Vegas is probably just Vegas's success in the postseason.
That's true. That's a good point.
Even though it's a pretty short history, obviously, because they're this expansion franchise. It's just recently come into the league, but they played pretty well in the playoffs. So that's a little bit of a concern. But on the other hand, I feel like we're ready to go. I feel like we're ready to write a new chapter in the franchise history. I feel like this is a new group of guys that we could take into the postseason. It's not our Parise Suter Wild teams from the beginning of that era. So, I think this series will be very fun. It's just you almost can't really you don't really know what's going to happen. I guess. I mean, these teams could score much goals, or it could be really really grinded out 2-1 kind of games.
Right.
But there's a lot of different storylines to watch.
Going back, speaking of storylines, and kind of going back to what you mentioned about the Parise Suter era.
Mm-hmm.
Parise's been scratched most of these last few games here. He's getting to play tonight in this final game because the Wild are resting most of their key guys.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, it's seeming pretty obvious at this point, but are you expecting Parise to be scratched for the playoffs?
I think so. Honestly, it feels like we're heading in that direction because all of our big games lately he hasn't been playing in. So it's kind of unfortunate because he's been like one of these Joe Mauer like figures for the Wild in these last how many years, especially when he's getting paid as much as he is. So that is pretty unfortunate. But I mean, it's just the reality of the situation that we're putting the best players we can on the ice, and that's the decision Evanston's got to make, and I respect it. So I don't expect to see him. What about you? Yeah,
I would agree with you, and I also respect them for making that decision. As much as I was a big Parise guy, I still kind of am.
Yeah.
But he's clearly not as good as he used to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, even as recently as last year, I think he was our top goal scorer.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how much of a drop off he's had in just 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
But I give credit to the Wild. They do what a lot of teams won't, and if they don't think you're good enough, then they're not going to play you. And it doesn't matter who you are, what your name is. If you're an assistant captain, which he is.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's an interesting dilemma they have going on, but I think it's, you just play your best guys and you go out there and you try to win. And I don't think anyone's really arguing with it. I don't think anyone's standing on the table trying to get Parise into play in the playoffs. No. I mean, and who knows how this will end up going next year. Maybe he'll agree to a trade, and he'll agree to take a pay cut or something so the Wild, are able to trade him. Mm-hmm. Maybe he considers retirement. I don't know. But it's hard to see him coming back to the Wild to be a borderline fourth line guy. I just don't see that.
No, especially under his current price tag.
Yeah. And he still has, 4 years left on that deal, which is just outrageous. I mean, Suter does too, but at least Suter's still playing, Suter can still play at a decent level, even though he's not quite the player he used to be either. But luckily, we have some really good defensemen. So
exactly.
So there's some under-the-radar players too, some X factors, outside of Kaprizov and Fiala that the Wild kind of need to step up. Who is your biggest X factor outside of our two main guys?
I feel like it's got to be like we've talked about in our previous videos. I think it's got to be that line of Foligno, Eriksson, Ek, and Greenway. I think they got to keep producing, even though most of our success probably hinges on, like you said, Fiala and Kaprizov. But I think it actually comes down to that line almost more than anything. If they can give us anything as far as like what they've been giving us all season, I think that'll be huge for us as far as winning any games in this full season and moving on to possibly play and live for another day. So I think it's going to be, I'm looking at that line specifically. How about you? Any particular players or lines? Or
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that line. They like to come out and set the tone of the game. They're aggressive. They like to hit guys, but they're also skilled offensively too, which is great. So I really do love that line. I'll go in a little bit different direction than you though. Victor Rask, who's just a polarizing player on this team.
I know.
He has some ugly moments. He has some great moments, like the OT winner a few nights ago. He is the X factor. If he plays well, the team's probably going to do pretty well.
Yeah, except he's a very polarizing player.
Exactly.
That's a great word for it.
Exactly. But if he has bad turnovers that lead to goals, that kind of stuff can sink your chances as well. So I think the Wild really need a good series out of Victor Rask. Ryan Hartman's another guy too. They moved him to center earlier this year. It's worked out great. His offensive numbers have been a lot better than people were expecting. They signed him to a 3-year extension. So obviously they like him enough to keep him around. So those are two guys I'm kind of looking at to step up a little bit. I mean, Hartman especially has stepped up quite a bit this year, but it'd be nice to see him keep that rolling into the playoffs because really, Kaprizov kind of runs how this team goes. He kind of determines what we're going to do. Yeah. But at the same time, you don't win all these games without, Hartman contributing, Rask contributing. Zuccarello's had a bounce back year after his bad year last year. So I think there's quite a few of these guys that are under the radar, but they're still important to where this team's going to go.
Extremely important, yeah, because, case in point, you can look at teams like, for instance, Edmonton, like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, like they can just be phenomenal players, but that's not getting them anywhere.
Right.
So we got to have more success, or we got to have production from more than just two guys like Fiala and Kaprizov. So I think that, like you said, that's going to be integral, having guys like these centers like Hartman and Rask being able to produce, because I know that was kind of one of our biggest concerns coming into the season. They played fairly well this season. So I think that for us to continue on in the playoffs, I think they got to continue playing pretty good hockey. So.
Right. And that's what's so exciting about this year too, is like we are so much better than anyone thought we were going to be. You know, we've taken multiple steps forward, and, you know, the future is looking super bright. We're only going to get better as a team.
Exactly.
We got 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft. Granted, Pittsburgh's a playoff team, and we're a playoff team.
Still, 2 first-round picks, that's premium.
It could be trade bait. Who knows?
Yeah.
Apparently the Wild are rumored to be interested in Jack Eichel from Buffalo, which would be absolutely awesome.
That'd be dynamite.
Having a first-line center like that. So it's something to keep an eye on.
You could really load up a line with him and Fiala and Kaprizov.
That would be an insane line.
If you want to go that route. I know Dean Evason's more a guy who likes to balance his lines, but the thing is, I mean, if you wanted to, you could be like Colorado and just load up a line and just have some ridiculous output from them. So
right.
I mean, this is all hypothetically speaking.
Right. Yeah, of course. But yeah, it's like, you know, it'd be a bummer if they got bounced right away in the first round. But at the same time, you have to look at it from the long view and just say this team's going to be really good for a while.
Yeah, this isn't it. Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe, you know, out of our 4 major Minnesota sports teams, maybe these guys have the best chance coming up to win a championship.
Maybe at this point, I'd probably say either them or the Vikings.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up.
So it'll be interesting to see. Before we go here quick, well, I want your predictions for if we play Colorado and if we play Vegas.
Okay. If we play Vegas, I'm going to say actually we win in 6 against Vegas.
Wow.
But if we play Colorado, I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say we lose in 6.
Gotcha.
That's where I'm at right now. I could easily see the Vegas series going 7-2, but I like us clinching at home at the X. So
right.
I'm going to go, the series will go 6, and depending on who we play, it'll determine if we're winning or not. So,
yeah, I'm going to say if we play Colorado, we're going to lose in 5. I really think Colorado would take it to us in the playoffs.
Okay.
If we play Vegas, I think we're going to win in 7, though.
Oh,
We've had their number this year. They're going to tighten up on us in the playoffs, but I still got faith in the Wild, especially if they're playing Vegas. So that's kind of where I'm at with that, I guess.
Yeah. I like those predictions. I think it's pretty realistic. Yeah.
So that'll do it for this segment of the North Star Takes podcast. We're going to be coming out with a golf video here shortly as well to talk about the PGA Championship coming up in about a week. So
yeah, and feel free to comment below what you think the Wild are going to do in the playoffs, if they're going to take down Vegas or Colorado, whoever might play, and how many games they're going to do it in.
Absolutely, and maybe who your X factors are as well. Yeah. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.